This is Mr. Knight, and tonight, I bring you a story not meant for the faint of heart. Many of you come here to fall asleep, but be warned, some dreams turn into something else entirely. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, where are you, and how late is it? Get comfortable, turn off the lights, and remember, monsters love quiet listeners. It was just another regular Thursday afternoon. The sun filtered lazily through the art room windows, casting golden rectangles on the floor. Brushes clinked against jars of water, and the faint smell of acrylic paint filled the air. Emma sat quietly at her table near the window, sketching a tree from memory. The art teacher, Mrs. Collins, moved slowly between tables, offering gentle encouragement. Emma liked art class. It was a peaceful break from the noise of the rest of the school day. But that day, the peace didn't last. Just after 1:35 p.m., a loud beep echoed through the room. "Attention, teachers and students," the principal's voice came over the loudspeaker. "This is a lockdown. I repeat, we are in lockdown. Follow protocol immediately." Everything froze. Mrs. Collins's eyes widened, but she quickly sprang into action. "Lights off. Everyone to the corner, now. Move quietly." Students scrambled. Paintbrushes were dropped, chairs scraped. Emma grabbed her sketchbook instinctively as she crouched in the far corner of the room with her classmates. Mrs. Collins locked the classroom door and pulled the window blinds down in one swift motion. The room dimmed. "Stay quiet," she whispered, kneeling down with them. Her voice was calm, but Emma could see the fear in her eyes. Minutes passed. The only sounds were shallow breathing and the occasional creak of the old school building. Emma could hear her heartbeat pounding in her ears. Then came the sound that would haunt her for a long time. A soft knock. It came from the window right behind her. Emma froze. Everyone else did too. Mrs. Collins held a finger to her lips. No one moved. Tap. 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 The knocking was slow. Deliberate. Emma turned her head slightly. Through a tiny gap in the blinds, she saw a shadow. A man's shadow. He was standing just outside the window. He wasn't wearing a school uniform. He was tall. A mask covered the lower half of his face, but his eyes were visible. Cold. Blank. In his right hand, something metallic gleamed. A knife? Emma couldn't breathe. The knocking grew louder. Harder. Almost desperate. Mrs. Collins whispered, barely audible, "Do not move. Do not make a sound." Someone in the back began to cry silently. Emma reached out and held their hand. Time slowed. Seconds dragged. The knocking stopped, but the shadow stayed. They could hear faint footsteps outside, like someone pacing. 10 minutes. 20. 30. The shadow was still there. Emma began to tremble. Her legs were cramping. Her mind was spinning with questions. Who was he? Why was he here? Why their classroom? After what felt like an eternity, sirens blared in the distance. More minutes passed. Then, a loud, authoritative voice outside, "This is the police. Step away from the building." The shadow didn't move at first. Then, finally, he turned and walked away. Officers swept through the school. The door to the art room opened slowly, and a uniformed officer stepped inside. "You're safe now. It's over." Mrs. Collins burst into tears. Emma and the others slowly stood up, stiff and shaky. They looked at each other. No one spoke. There were no words. Later, they learned the man was a former student. He had graduated years ago, but he had since developed severe mental health issues. That day, he had come back to the school for reasons no one fully understood. He hadn't hurt anyone. He hadn't even tried to enter the building. But the knife was real. And so was the fear. He was taken into custody without a struggle. No one in that classroom was physically harmed. But the scars ran deep. The next day, the school was closed. Emma stayed home, sitting on her bed, still in her pajamas even by late afternoon. Her parents hovered, gently asking if she wanted to talk. She didn't. Not yet. Instead, she stared out her window, looking at the swaying branches of the oak tree in the front yard. The same tree she had tried to sketch before everything changed. She kept hearing the knock in her mind. Over and over. A soft tap. Then harder. A pause. Then again. It echoed like a ghost refusing to leave. When night came, she tried to sleep. But every time she closed her eyes, the man's shadow returned. She would wake up gasping, her heart racing. Her mom came in at 3 a.m., sat beside her, and stroked her hair. "It's okay, baby. It's over." But Emma didn't believe that yet. On Monday, the school reopened, but things didn't feel the same. Every hallway felt quieter. Teachers smiled more but spoke less. Students whispered instead of laughing. Everyone gave longer hugs. Everyone glanced at windows. In homeroom, their teacher, Mr. Sanchez, sat on the edge of his desk and said, "If any of you need to talk, there are counselors available. If you don't feel ready, that's okay too. Just know, we're here." Emma noticed that Jonah, the boy who sat next to her in art class, hadn't returned. She heard he was having trouble sleeping. Flashbacks. She understood. She had them too. In art class, the paintbrush felt strange in her hand. She dipped it into blue but couldn't bring herself to press it to the canvas. Her hand trembled. Her eyes darted to the window, now locked and reinforced. Mrs. Collins stood nearby. "No rush," she said softly. Emma nodded but didn't answer. Lunch was quieter than usual. She sat with her friends, but no one brought up the lockdown directly. It was as if they were all avoiding the obvious. But then Maya, her best friend, whispered, "Do you think he saw us through the blinds?" Emma didn't answer right away. "I think so," she finally said. "I think he knew we were there." The table fell silent. Later that day, counselors visited each classroom. One of them, Mr. Evan, wore a soft sweater and had kind eyes. He told them that fear was natural. That trauma didn't have a timeline. "Some of you will want to talk now," he said. "Some of you won't be ready for weeks or months. That's okay." Emma listened. She didn't speak. That night, she opened her sketchbook. Not to draw, but to write. She wrote about the man's eyes. The coldness. The stillness. She wrote about the silence in the room. About Maya's hand gripping hers. She wrote 6 pages before she stopped. Then, she slept. For the first time in days, she didn't wake up screaming. A week after the lockdown, the school administration organized an optional group therapy session for the students who had been in the art classroom. They set up a quiet room near the library, filled with soft beanbags, blankets, tissues, and calming music playing faintly in the background. Emma didn't want to go. But Mrs. Collins gently encouraged her. "Sometimes the first step to healing is just being present," she said. So Emma went. The room was half full. Maya was there, sitting cross-legged and chewing nervously on a bracelet string. Jonah had returned to school that morning and sat stiffly in a corner, his eyes distant. The counselor, Ms. Lacey, was the same woman who had spoken briefly in class earlier that week. Her presence was warm, and she spoke in a tone that made the room feel safer. "I'm not here to force anyone to talk," she said gently. "But I want to remind you, what you felt was real. What you feel now is real. And this is a place where none of us are alone." At first, no one said anything. Then slowly, a boy named Travis broke the silence. I thought we were gonna die," he said, voice cracking. "I kept thinking about my mom and how I never said goodbye that morning." Maya reached over and held his hand. Others began to share. Short sentences. Fragments of thoughts. Emma sat there, listening. The words they spoke wrapped around her like a blanket, frightening, but also familiar. When it was her turn, she spoke softly. "I keep hearing the knock. Even when it's quiet. I feel like, if I let myself feel normal again, I'm letting my guard down." Ms. Lacey nodded. "Your body is doing its best to protect you. But safety isn't about being on edge. It's about building trust again, with your world, with yourself." Emma didn't cry. But she felt something loosen in her chest. Over the next weeks, she returned to the sessions. Slowly, her voice grew stronger. She shared a memory of Mrs. Collins whispering to keep still. The weight of Maya's hand in hers. The coldness of the man's eyes. And the moment the police came, and her breath returned. Each session was different. Some days were filled with tears. Others with laughter. They brought in therapy dogs one week. Another week, they painted together. It wasn't about fixing anyone. It was about reminding them they weren't broken. Emma's sketchbook became her sanctuary. At first, she only drew shapes. Abstract lines. Circles. Messy clouds. Then came pieces of the scene, a window, a hand gripping a pencil, a corner filled with children. She didn't show anyone. But one morning, she found the courage to give one of her sketches to Ms. Lacey. It showed a girl surrounded by shadows, but she was holding a glowing pencil. Ms. Lacey smiled. "This says more than words ever could." Art became Emma's language. She drew every night, every spare moment during lunch, even in the margins of her notebooks. Some pictures were dark, storm clouds, heavy eyes, knives, locked windows. Others began to lighten, a hand reaching up, a sunrise behind a school. Mrs. Collins took notice. She offered Emma a small display space on the art room's corkboard, Emma's Corner. One day, after school, Jonah walked by and stopped in front of one of Emma's sketches. It was titled, "Still Standing." A tree, twisted and cracked, but alive. Its roots deep, its leaves just beginning to return. He didn't say anything. But the next day, he sat next to Emma in art class again. They painted together. Their project was simple: what makes you feel safe? Emma painted her oak tree again, but this time, she added light filtering through the leaves. She added herself beneath it, arms wrapped around her knees. Jonah painted a wide field with no walls, no windows, just open sky. He said it helped him breathe. Mrs. Collins watched silently, pride and sadness mixing in her eyes. The seasons began to shift. Spring brought blossoms. Laughter returned to the hallways in careful bursts. The school installed new locks, held drills differently, and increased mental health resources. Emma became part of the Student Voice Council. She shared her experiences at a school board meeting, asking for more funding for counseling and art therapy. "I'm not just asking for myself," she said, standing at the podium. "I'm asking for every student who's afraid to walk into a classroom again. Give them something that helps them feel whole." Her speech was shared on social media. Local news picked it up. Parents reached out, thanking her. Some students hugged her in the halls. But Emma didn't want to be a hero. She just wanted to feel normal. Maya, Jonah, and Emma grew closer through their shared experience. They studied together, created an art zine, and even hosted a student-led awareness week. 1 year after the incident, the school held a memorial and healing ceremony, not to remember the fear, but to honor the resilience. Students, parents, teachers, and even some officers attended. Emma stood at the mic. "We were scared," she said. "Some of us still are. But we kept going. We learned to hold each other's hands in the dark. And we learned that even when the world shakes, we don't fall alone." When she stepped down, the auditorium rose in applause. That night, Emma went home and opened her sketchbook to a fresh page. She drew a classroom. The lights were on. The windows were open. And the children inside were laughing. She titled it, "After the Knock." Because life had moved forward. And so had she.